a warm welcome to you all on the fourth day of this AICTE's 2-week hybrid faculty training program on stress management, art of living, and effective communication. We have had very wonderful sessions by our expert speakers on stress management and meditation and techniques, which will help us cope better with our day-to-day lives. Now, I would like Niham to introduce our today's speaker.
Thank you, Jayant. Our speaker for today is Professor Shirley Matthew. Professor Shirley Matthew is an author, educator, expert in communication and soft skills with DJ Sanghvi College of Engineering, Mumbai. She is an educator with more than 20 years' experience in the field of teaching with special focus on the areas of business communication, soft skills, presentation skills, and public speaking. She is the author of Communication Skills, a reference book for engineering students of Mumbai University. She has conducted training sessions organized by Mumbai University for the communication skills faculty. She is also a resource person for faculty development programs, short-term training programs, student development programs, seminars, webinars, etc. She is also the syllabus committee expert for communication skills in Mumbai University. We welcome you, madam.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Okay, should I be sharing my screen? I'll just try and share the screen. Just tell me if you can see this.
Yes, ma'am, we can see. Put in presentation mode.
Okay. Right, everybody can see the screen, right?
Yeah, absolutely fine.
Okay. So I guess we have around 14 in this meeting right now. So this is going to be a unique experience for me, being a participant as well as given the privilege of being the speaker as well. So I'm really looking forward to some lively interactions for this particular session. So my topic is the power of non-verbal communication. And this, I believe, is a very relevant topic because communication is something which has become a part of our daily lives. And we communicate in so many ways that we don't even realize that we are communicating. So let's look or go into depth in this topic. So now, okay. So what we'll be doing today, the roadmap for today's session. So we are going to look at three aspects. We are going to look at the origin of communication. We are going to look at verbal communication, and then we'll look at different aspects of non-verbal communication. Now, just a couple of things. So we will be having some activities in between. Okay, so at certain points of time, for some activities, you might have to keep your camera on so that we can, that'll be more effective. So just wanted to, give you an idea about this. So you can keep a paper and a pen with you handy so that when we come to the activity, you have, all this with you. Okay, so let me just ask you, so how many of us ready to start with the session? Just give me a yes in the chat box so I know that people are there with me. Are we ready to start with non-verbal communication? Okay, that's nice. Quick yeses. Okay, I hope the others are also therein and hope to hear some voices also in the course of introduction. So thank you so much for everybody who has responded. So moving ahead. Okay, let's first talk about the origin of communication. When we are talking about communication, let's go back in history and just let's look at, how communication originated. So my very first question coming up to you, how old do you think is communication? What do you think? When did man first start communicating? How many years back? Okay, since Adam. Professor Joseph says since Adam. Okay, so that's the beginning of mankind. Anybody else has some other responses? Everybody agrees? that we've started communicating right since the origin of man, or the origin of language? What do you think? Did we start communicating since the origin of man, or since language was, came into the picture? Before the birth of mankind. Okay, so even before that, the dinosaur age. Before language. Okay, Dr. Sandeep, why do you think that before language came into picture, we started communicating? Okay, so Professor Nandu says non-verbal communication. So is that what, okay, sign language, correct, exactly, right. So even before language came into picture, we started communicating. So that was when we are talking about when, the sign language, and that's how human beings have been communicating even before language came into the picture. Okay, great. Next question. So if you look at a human being, okay, at what age do you think a person starts communicating? Sorry? At what age do you think a human being starts communicating?
From birth.
From birth, great. Dr. Shamli says from birth. Dr. Sandeep says right after birth. Any other opinions? From the womb. Okay, Professor Joseph says from the womb. That's wonderful. So you believe that communication happens even before birth? Do you think communication happens even before birth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How do you think, Professor Nargis, how do you think communication?
Ma'am, the kicks, what should I say? The kicks, the craving, all it starts from there. Like non-verbally.
Right. So we all remember, especially the women, the mothers do remember the kick that they got, and that is one kick that we are jubilant about. So that is a great experience. So right from the time the baby is in the womb, in some way or the other, it's communication. So that's why even mothers are told that you listen to good music, and you eat the right food, etc., so that the baby has right temperament, etc. So baby starts communicating, or a person, you can say, even right before birth, maybe from the womb itself, even, in religious stories, etc., in mythology, we hear of, we see cases where communication is happening right in the womb of a mother. So fantastic. So people, human being starts communicating even before birth. Okay, that's right. Next question. How often does man communicate in a day? If you could, maybe think of a range, or if you could just give a number, how do you think, how many times do you think, how often does a man or a human being communicate in a day? You can just give a broad range, how many, just give a random guess. What do you think? How often would a person communicate in a day? Okay, Professor Ankit says every time except being asleep. Does everybody agree that we communicate each and every moment except when we are asleep?
No, every moment, even when we are asleep, we are communicating.
So Dr. Shamli says even when we are asleep. So how would you say that we are communicating even when we are asleep?
We are telling people by, our position, we are telling people that we are resting, we are sleeping.
Okay.
Our eyes are shut, we are like still at that moment. So people can make out that we are sleeping.
Right. So even sleeping positions, we do you think sleeping positions also communicate how you sleep? People sleep in different positions.
Yes.
So does that also communicate various things?
Yes.
Yeah, because people have tried to interpret, how exactly when a person is sleeping, if you sleep on your tummy, what does that indicate? When you sleep on your back, if you're all curled up when you sleep, all these different positions also communicate about maybe your mental state or what is going on, etc. So each and every moment in your life, we could say that we are communicating, whether we are, throughout the day, we are communicating, each and every moment we are communicating. So if you're silent, so right now you're silent, right? Maybe some of you are communicating with me via chat or you're speaking up. What about the ones who are silent? Are they communicating at this moment? So do you think someone who's not speaking is communicating?
Yes.
Okay, how? How do you think? Non-verbally, right? So non-verbally, maybe you're just silent, you're not speaking anything, but still non-verbally you are communicating. Okay, so if we are communicating every single moment of the day, knowingly or unknowingly, okay, then isn't it important that we understand the dynamics of communication so that we are able to communicate effectively? So when you think of communication, is there a particular image that comes to your mind? If there is one image you would say, which represents communication, so what image would that be? If you had to think that, okay, I had to put communication as a picture. So what picture would come to your mind when we talk about communication? A dot on the paper, all right. Interesting, okay. Now this might be a little, you might have to really exercise your mind to think about the visual image. For me, I think when I think of communication, I think of a bridge. Because communication is, it's like people are standing on two separate ends. It's like, two banks of the river. You have people standing on both the ends and you have a bridge in between. So the bridge is the only way they can cross over, they can meet, and they can, come together. So it's like a kind of a bridge which is used to bridge the gap between people. So that's what I think of when I think of communication. Okay, so now when we talk about communication, so we talked about the origin of communication. Moving on to one aspect of communication, that is verbal communication. So verbal communication, when we talk about it, it involves two aspects. What do you think are the two aspects that would be there in verbal communication? Verbal means the use of words, where we are using words to communicate. So where
Oral communication.
Sorry?
Oral communication and written communication.
That's right, Monica. So we have oral communication and written communication, correct? So when we talk about verbal, it's not just oral, because people think verbal communication is oral communication, but it's not like that. You even use communication when we are talking about written communication, that also is a part of verbal communication. In what instances do you think maybe written communication would be better, better as a tool over oral communication, or the vice versa situation? Where do you think of any situation where you might prefer using oral over written, or the other way around?
Oral immediate communication.
Yes, Professor Vilas, so that is correct. Good observation. So when you want to communicate immediately, you are not going to use your pen and paper and put it in words, you're going to just speak it out. So right, so when you have to communicate something immediately, you will use oral communication. Right, for the deaf and the dumb, yes. So in such a case for them, oral communication, again, they might be using here, in fact, sign language, okay, to communicate. So where they might find it difficult to use oral communication. When documentation is needed, very true. So when you have something which is really elaborate and you need to document it properly, of course, NAC, how can we forget the amount of documentation we've all been involved in? So all this is a part of written communication. Very true. So anything which is elaborate, which you feel you might want to refer to in the future, we will definitely prefer to use written communication. Excellent. Okay. So now coming to my activity. Is everybody ready for the activity? Now this activity would involve you having a paper and pen with you. So I hope everybody has a paper and pen. I'll tell you what this activity is going to be. So I'll just give you simple 5 instructions. Okay, following the instructions, you have to draw the object on the paper. Okay, 5 instructions. So follow the instructions, draw the object. Let's see who managed to get the picture correctly, and then we'll display the picture on the screen. Okay, so we'll draw this picture following the instructions, and then once we are done with this, I would ask you all to display this picture on screen. So let's see what you all have come up with. So are you all ready for this activity? So you can, give me a thumbs up or a yes, so that I can start with my instructions. I hope everybody is ready with your paper and a pen, and you're ready to follow the instructions, and you're ready to draw the picture. Great, fantastic. I see a lot of enthusiasm today. Everybody responding very quickly. Wonderful.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful. So let's go to the instructions. So follow the instructions and draw the picture. Okay, instruction number 1. Draw a triangle slanting to the left side. Draw a triangle slanting to the left side. Now, another thing about this is you cannot ask any questions. Okay, so whatever you understand of the instruction, you are just going to draw accordingly. So you can't ask me any questions at this point. Fine. So I guess step 1, everybody is done with. I can move to step number 2. Step number 2, draw a rectangle at the base of the triangle. Draw a rectangle at the base of the triangle. Okay. I believe everybody would have completed this step. Simple, simple steps. Okay, great. Step number 3, draw 3 circles, one below the other in the rectangle. Draw 3 circles, one below the other in the rectangle. Okay, simple enough? Okay. Next step. Draw a trapezium at the base of the rectangle. Draw a trapezium at the base of the rectangle. Okay. Last instruction. Draw 2 small squares at both the ends of the trapezium. Draw 2 small squares at both the ends of the trapezium. So everybody's got all the instructions, I believe. I hope your drawing is ready, and you are ready to display it. So I will just stop presenting, and I would want to see what you have done. So if you could, place it close to the screen. Okay, Professor Nargis, yeah, a little more closer to the screen. Okay, wonderful. Okay, Professor Nandan, yeah. Oh, that's on the phone. Oh, wow. Yeah, great. Lovely. So I could see 2 or 3. All right, Professor Joseph. So I would like everybody to just hold it close to the screen. So let's see, and everybody have a good look at each other's pictures, okay? And we'll see who comes really close to following the instructions. Okay, Dr. Pravi, yeah, I can see that as well. Great. Is there anyone else who would like to display? So I've seen a couple of pictures now, and everybody take a good look at the pictures. So now let's see what exactly is there on my screen. Okay. All right. I'll share my screen. Okay. You can all see the screen right now. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'll display the picture that I had in mind when I gave the instructions. So, is it close to what you have done? Somewhat. Some people, it's a little close. Some have gone totally different. Okay, more or less. So now, let's analyze what happens here. Right? I have given the instructions. Why is it that when I gave the instructions, I had this particular picture in mind? And why is that we have come up with so many different pictures? What do you think?
Because of different perceptions,
Okay,
different understanding.
Right? Interesting. Yeah, because of different perceptions. Okay, so is it because, what did you feel? Was the communication different at the sender's end? I think Professor Vilas, you're unmuted.
Okay. Misinterpretation also sometimes.
Misinterpretation, correct. So now who has misinterpreted? Is it that my instructions, maybe I have thought about a particular thing? Okay, when I say slanting to the left side, or when I say draw a rectangle, you might have a different picture of how the rectangle should be. I will have a different picture. When I say trapezium or I say two small squares, it's possible that you have a different picture in your mind. I have a different picture.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So that is why we see how, though in my mind, the picture is very clear. And I think, okay, I'm giving instructions very clearly and I have the picture in mind. But when we see what somebody else has done, then we realize that, okay, maybe there is some gap in communication because people who are receiving the communication are interpreting it according to their own perception, how you perceive it. So definitely, in verbal communication, there always can be a gap. Okay, that is why we have so many cases of misunderstanding wherein you say something, the other person perceives it completely differently, and we have arguments, we have problems, etc. Okay, and here if you see, no one is to blame. I can't say that I am right, you are wrong. Okay, or you are right, I am wrong. We both are right in our own way. But somewhere there is a gap because each one of us perceives things differently. Okay, fantastic. So hand to all of you who participated and you who did this. Thank you so much for participating. Okay, so now when we are talking about, how words can be misunderstood. But do you also agree with this statement which says words have power? Do you agree that words have power? That it can be powerful?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it is true that words have power. And when we say power, is it in a positive way or a negative way or both?
It could be both.
Correct. It could be both. So it's not necessary when we're talking about power that it always has to be in a positive way. It could be negative, it could be positive depending on how you use it. And we have seen, cases right from history where sometimes words have resulted in wars. Words have determined the destiny of an entire nation, okay, or have probably, ruined people's lives, or maybe even have, set people's lives for the better. So if you look at one case in history, so I'll just, show you a quote. I don't know how many of you maybe in history or something you have come across this. And if you remember, who was Thomas Macaulay? Now, his very famous statement, okay, he said, a single shelf of a good European library is worth, you can say, the whole native literature of India and Arabia. This was a statement that he made, and it really turned around a lot of things for us at that time in India. So do you all know in what context he made the statement or who he was? Anyone has any idea about this, and where did he make the statement? If you all remember your history long back, or if you've read across about this. Okay, so let me tell you. So this was, from this document, which is like Macaulay's Minutes of Education. Okay, it was in 1835 that he's a British historian and a politician. So Macaulay, he presented his minutes on Indian education. So he was the one who felt that, okay, the need to impart English education to Indian natives. And in one statement, he has dismissed the entire literature of the whole of India and Arabia. He says that, a single shelf of a European library is worth the whole, literature of India. So with that, he tried to put his case forward that English is superior, English culture, so education, everything is a part of culture. So that's how the whole idea of imposing, the cultural aspects of Britain also on India came. So one statement that he made, or the entire Macaulay's Minutes of Education, determined the whole way in which the culture of the country would be shaped. Okay, so that was one place where maybe, it had a lot of repercussion for us. Now, we all know of Nelson Mandela, and he has made a lot of, famous statements. So now, if you look at an empowering statement, he says, "I never lose. I either win or learn." So this is also a very important statement, because many times when we are faced with failure, we feel dejected. Okay, but a statement like this, makes you realize that there's nothing like losing. It's either you win or you learn. Okay, so either way, you're not losing out anything. So statements like this, words like this can be extremely powerful. Now, I will show you a video. Okay, and I would, want you to watch the video, and then I'll ask you some questions related to this. So I'll stop presenting that, and okay, I'll go on mute for presenting this video. And if you don't hear the sound, let me know. Otherwise, I'll assume you can hear it.
Fearless.
I can achieve
I can achieve
anything
anything
with hard work.
with hard work.
Good.
I am brave.
I'm brave.
I have wings to fly. I see no limit.
I have wings to fly. I see no limit.
I am courageous.
I am courageous.
I always try my best.
I always try my best.
I am little, but I'm a force.
I am little, but I'm a force.
I love my hair.
I love my hair.
I am kind.
I am kind.
I am loved,
I am loved.
and I love others.
I love others.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I am loved, so unconditionally loved.
I am loved, so unconditionally loved.
I have black girl magic.
I have black girl magic.
I am confident.
I am confident. Like Michelle Obama.
That's right.
I can do anything.
Do anything.
I forgive.
I forgive.
If I fall,
If I fall,
I will get back up.
don't sit down.
If I fall,
If I fall,
I will get back up.
I'll get back up.
I have hope in our nation.
I have hope in our nation.
I love myself. I love my silly self. I love my funny self. I love all myself.
I love me silly self. I love me fun self. I love every kind of self.
Very nice.
Yes, your thoughts about this. What are these statements called when you say I am, or I, it's not, what is this? What is this called? Beginning with an A. Okay, well, these are called affirmations. So tell me, now these are also words being used. Are these, where words are actually, it's powerful here. So why, if you think it's powerful, why do you think it's powerful? Okay, giving positive command to self. Exactly, Professor Vidyamata. Yes. Good. Present affirmative statements. These are definitely affirmative statements. These are called affirmations. What is the power of affirmations? this is a practice which people follow. They do it deliberately, talking positive affirmations. Now here in this particular video, what did you see? The situation is these are dads and they are repeating positive statements and their daughters are repeating these affirmations. So how does, one help, or how does it help when you, you affirm such things? Changes the subconscious mind to present living moments. Excellent. Yes. So it gets registered in the subconscious mind. And when you are affirming, such things, you are actually, you're going to believe in it. Now, one thing I would like to ask you here is, do you think here when they are, you saw the video, when they're affirming, they're saying all this, I love myself, things like that. Is it only the verbal communication here which plays an important role? Or you think the non-verbal communication also comes into play in, stating these words? Okay, both verbal and non-verbal. That's right. So what are the non-verbal things that you could notice in the video? They are saying the words, the tone, correct? Is important. The smile on the face. That's right. So it's not just empty repetition of words. The tone in which they are saying, okay, and what exactly, with that expression on their face, that makes it a real affirmation. If you can just say, okay, I love myself, but you have no expression, that voice is not jubilant, and your tone is not bright and happy, so you will not feel the affirmation. So here we see the importance of the non-verbal communication also. So we saw how words are important, but we see how non-verbal communication is now coming into play. So definitely for us also as teachers, as parents, etc. So words are very, very powerful. When we repeat them, we tell this to people, etc. But when non-verbal communication is added to it, it creates a whole new meaning. Okay, so that's how we see that it's not just the words, but it is also the non-verbal communication which comes into play here. So when we are looking at non-verbal communication, now if you looked at words definitely have impact. But if you look at an overall communication, if I ask you, what percent is the impact of words in a communication situation? So if you say out of 100, what weightage would you give to words, only words, which create an impact in a communication situation? What do you think? How much weightage would you give to the use of words for, any communication situation? Any percentage that comes to your mind, or according to you? 8%, 50%. Okay. Any more guesses? 70%. Okay, good. All right. So if you look at the weightage, now we have a person called Albert Mehrabian who has done a lot of research in this area. And what he says, that's his results were shocking to many, because people always placed a lot of emphasis on the words you use. But he said in a communication situation, the actual impact of only words is just 7%. The actual impact of a communication, okay, it is 38% for the tone, the modulation, okay, the entire vocalics part carries 38% of weightage, and 55% is to your body language. So when you speak, okay, 93% of the impact of that communication is coming from non-verbal aspects of communication. And it is just 7% that is coming from the actual words. So body language becomes very important when you are communicating, because that adds a lot of value to what you're saying. That gives the real meaning to your words. Words by itself or on its own are not that impactful. It's only when you put in body language and you put in the tone and voice and vocalics, that's when the real impact of that communication is seen. So that is why even in written communication, we try to put in emotion. How do we do that? In written communication also, we try to put in emotion. In our WhatsApp messages, how do we put emotion in our words?
By using emojis and all.
Right. We use a lot of emojis to put in, and we feel good when we see the emojis, because sometimes when somebody is making a statement, you don't know whether that's meant to be taken seriously. It's a funny thing. So when you put an emoji, you understand in what spirit the person has commented. So that's how emojis add a lot of meaning to even written communication. That's why we want to use it even in written communication. Okay, so now I will present a statement before you, and you can try and tell me what exactly do you understand by that particular statement. Okay, so the statement goes like this: whenever the meaning of the non-verbal message conflicts with the meaning of the verbal message, we are more likely to believe the non-verbal message. Could you think of an example which would, explain this statement? Whenever the meaning of the non-verbal message conflicts with the meaning of the verbal message, we are more likely to believe the non-verbal message. Okay, Professor Joseph says interview. Could you elaborate? Or could anybody else also put in what exactly do you think? Does any example come to your mind, or what do you understand by this statement?
If I'm saying that I'm confident and my body language is conveying that I'm not at all confident, so you can understand my body language like that.
Very true, Professor Praveen. So it is not what you are saying, rather how you are saying it. Okay, if somebody asks you, how are you doing? And you say, I'm fine. So people are not going to believe what you said. They are going to look at how you said it. So if you have not said it with that conviction, when there is a contradiction, they are going to believe the non-verbal message and not the verbal message. So that is, shows the importance of non-verbal communication. Okay, so now certain features about non-verbal communication. First of all, non-verbal communication happens continuously and it occurs unintentionally. Do you agree that it happens unintentionally and it is continuous? We probably might not even realize that we are communicating. Yes. Could you think of some instance wherein maybe unintentionally people communicate something? They don't intend to. Okay, they are saying something else. But is it possible that they unintentionally communicate a different message? Yes, can you think of an example for this? The train crowd, okay. If you don't like the conversation, it is reflected on the face. Excellent. So sometimes what happens is, even when you're having a conversation with people, so everybody is smiling, etc., and you are also participating in the conversation, but if you're really bored, maybe involuntarily that boredom is reflected on your face, and it is apparent that you are really not enjoying the communication. No eye contact. That's right, Dr. Shamli. So here it's possible that we might not make eye contact with the person, and indirectly we are, or unintentionally we are communicating that we don't want to continue with the conversation. Right. So this we looked at how it communicates 93% of our emotional meaning. Non-verbal communication is more reliable than verbal communication. That's why we don't rely much on the verbal communication. Rather, we prefer to trust the non-verbal communication, what the body language is communicating to us. Many non-verbal cues are contextual. Okay, that means it's true in a particular context. We can't try and interpret it universally. I mean, I might explain this when we come to different aspects of non-verbal communication. So you can't universally say that somebody is, doing a particular gesture. So that means this is the meaning for that. Everything has to be interpreted in context. This we'll understand when we go further. Do you think men and women use different non-verbal cues for communicating different emotions? Because the study believes that sometimes it's not necessary that men and women use same kind of non-verbal cue. They might use different non-verbal cues. So could you think of some non-verbal cues? Now, for example, emotion. Okay, so now we are talking in a general aspect. It's not necessary that all men and all women react like this, but we're talking in general terms. So when we are talking about emotions, okay, who is more expressive when it comes to expressing emotions? If you talk about men and women, so who do you think, express more? Okay, generally women. Now some men might, I don't know if the men are silent. So I would like to know whether you all agree or you all disagree, because all the women unanimously and very clearly say it's women who are more expressive. So do the men in the group agree with this, or you have a different point of view? Okay. So very, very, without having a fight to this, I think most men are willing to agree to this, that yes, okay, women are more expressive. That means, so maybe they show their emotions more clearly. So if they are happy, so maybe the woman would express it, with a big broad smile, whereas a man would not want to show the emotion. So maybe it's culturally or societally also conditioned that we don't approve of men being too expressive. Sometimes even society doesn't approve, so men automatically try and restrict, the expression of emotions. When it comes to authority, do you think men and women, express that or show different verbal cues to express authority? Because there has been a study of, when men and women leaders also, how they, through the use of body language, try to display authority. So it was found that men and women use pretty different styles for displaying authority. So could you think of some way in which men would display their authority through body language? Any particular instances of body language you think of which men would use to express or to show authority? Okay, loud gestures. All right. Okay. Men, would you agree? Loud gestures, do you think when it comes to showing authority, what kind of gesture? So when we are going to do the different aspects of body language, maybe we will even look at it, whether, it's true, or how exactly there are differences, gender differences even in the expression of non-verbal communication. Okay. Donald Trump, big eyes. Okay. You can think of Donald Trump who is all animated and who show the authority. Now, women, on the other hand, when they have to show their authority, men would in different ways. Again, we will see that in forthcoming slides. Women, they would show their authority in different ways, but maybe not exactly they would not use the same body language, because again, that might be looked down upon. So both genders have different ways, different non-verbal cues of representing authority. Sometimes for women, the tone. Now, women generally are, they have a high-pitched sound when it comes to when we shout, we know how how voice goes really high-pitched. But men generally, again, when they are, angry or irritated, that pitch doesn't go so high as women. So their pitch generally they try to convey authority using low pitch, but maybe a loud kind of a voice, which can be more threatening than the other. So different kind of words, Modi ji, that's true. Okay, so we all know in different ways, how people show authority. So the different styles will be evident, and we will see in what all aspects this can be seen. So these are some general features of non-verbal communication. Now, if you look at the relevance in teaching, okay, so when we are talking about non-verbal communication as teachers, how do you think learning or understanding non-verbal communication can help us as teachers? Is there some way in which it could be beneficial if we understood body language, or maybe we even applied positive body language in our classrooms? So how would it make a difference, or in what way would it make a difference? How would it be relevant to us as teachers? Any thoughts that as teachers, how in encouraging students? Okay, that's true. How can we use body language to encourage students? You all can unmute and speak also. Any way in which we could use body language which would encourage students?
Yes, more of open gestures when you're talking to your students and you're relating to them, you walk up to them, you be next to them. These are the gestures which tells them that, okay, fine, you can participate. I'm here to listen to you. So these are all open gestures which is going to invite conversation from the students.
Right. Very
Through eyes also. Through eyes also.
Through eyes also, yes, definitely. Through eyes, through how we, approach them, yes, and how we talk to them, our voice, all this also, help in bridging the gap. Like in the beginning when I talked about the bridge, so we are always trying to bridge the gap between two people through communication. And that's how it can be relevant in teaching. So if you look at different ways in which classroom management, sometimes, through effective body language, you can even manage the class. You might not have to shout or raise your voice every time to manage the class. With effective body language, you can manage the class. Do you agree that you can, without much of screaming and shouting, you can do that? Yes. So the tone in which you speak, sometimes even with eye contact, we know, like as teachers, yeah, just keep mum, right? As you're speaking, you feel that students are talking. What you have to do, the best method, just keep quiet and just maintain eye contact with whoever is making noise. Automatically, you will see that the class is quiet. So definitely it helps in classroom management. It impacts the energy level of the students. Can our energy impact the energy level of the students positively or negatively? Yes, of course. So if we come, sometimes if you are in a terrible mood or you come and very irritated, annoyed, you say something, you use a wrong tone, immediately the energy of the entire class changes. You can also use it positively. You come with a bright kind of or enthusiastic demeanor, automatically that is going to transfer and, lift the energy of the students. So definitely, if you are dull, the lecture is definitely going to be on the downside. They will not be interested in whatever you say because you're conveying it in a dull manner. So as teachers, it's very important that our energy levels have to be high so that we can, transfer that to the students. Yes, it increases the attention level. Obviously, if they're going to feel energetic, they're going to pay more attention. It's going to help them to understand better. And definitely, it's going to forge strong relation. When you have positive body language on both ends, the relations are going to be stronger. Okay, so let's then understand what body language is all about. And let's look at the different aspects of when we talk about body language, what are the different aspects that are involved? Okay, first, appearance. Okay, this is the very first thing, and especially as teachers, we are in a profession where we have to face students every day. So definitely the way you are, okay, it matters a lot. Now look at this image. What does this image convey to you? Now this is a tiger. Okay, how is the tiger, appearing to be? Do you think the tiger is looking dull or energetic? What do you think? Looking at the tiger, how does the tiger seem? Okay, look at the way it's slumped on the branch and its overall body language. So do you think the tiger is looking dull or energetic? Okay, dull. Now it's such a magnificent animal, right? It has got such a fabulous kind of an appearance. But even with that kind of an appearance also, it can appear extremely dull if it carries itself in that particular way. It's looking dull and sleepy, right? So your physical presence will impact the audience receptiveness. Okay, how you look, how you carry yourself. So when we're talking about appearance, what are the things that we're talking about? So here in appearance, your physical looks, of course, the clothing that you wear, the makeup and accessories that you use, your overall grooming and personal hygiene. All this is a part of appearance. We think appearance is only about the way we look, our physical looks, but that's not so. All these other aspects contribute to how you appear. Do you know who this lady in the picture is? Anyone? She is Nykaa CEO.
Nykaa owner.
Correct. She is the Nykaa CEO, Falguni Nair. So, in whatever kind of position, especially for us as teachers, this does matter. Okay, how we carry ourselves matters a lot, and all these aspects contribute to how people or what people perceive about us. Okay, so now I'm going to show you a picture, two pictures. So here we have Mr. Murthy and we have Mr. Alex. Okay, both are investment bankers. Fine, both are investment bankers. Now I have a question for you. Okay, so for that I will want you to use Mentimeter. So I'll stop presenting here, and I have two questions based on the picture. I hope everybody saw the picture properly. You all saw the picture, right? So I can move ahead to Mentimeter. So I would like you all to answer two questions for me. All right, I'll just share it. I hope you can see the screen. Can you see the screen? Is the screen visible to everybody?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you have to go to www.menti.com and use the code 22688709. It's displayed here on top. I hope everybody can see that. And you have two questions, so please respond. So I'll just wait till you all get to Mentimeter and respond. Okay. So question is, who appears? Looking at the picture, you have Mr. Murthy to the left-hand side and there was Alex. So who appears to be rebellious and headstrong? We've got one response. Okay. The others I'm waiting for.
What's the code, ma'am?
Code is 22688709.
2688
709. 22688709. And there is another question, who appears to be intelligent and focused according to you? All right.
Ma'am, done.
Done. Great. Good. So we have 7 people who have responded. So I'm waiting for some more responses and then we can. Okay. So we have 2 people who feel Murthy is rebellious and headstrong, and we have 7 people who feel Alex is so. Second question, who appears intelligent and focused? 9 people have responded. All seem to agree or feel that it's Murthy who seems more intelligent and focused as opposed to Alex. Okay. Do we have any more responses coming up? Okay. So may I ask you, whatever you all have responded, on what basis did you come to your conclusion? Whichever answer you've given, either Murthy or Alex. Was there some particular reason why you selected these people? You felt one was rebellious, one seemed to be more intelligent and focused?
Appearance and visual.
Appearance, yes.
Appearance, okay. What about the appearance? Could you be a little specific about what part of the appearance, made you think that one person seemed intelligent and the other person? Is there something you liked about the appearance, you didn't like, or how did you come to that conclusion?
The tattoo is there and the hairstyle, that way we look at the guy.
Okay.
So it is totally different, even though they are at the same thing.
Right.
Whereas when we see Murthy sir, the appearance, the way, the smile, and it is totally different. Two different persons.
The decency in Murthy's appearance, basically.
Okay, he's looking decent. So Professor Saili already called him sir. He's looking so decent and so, so you automatically like Murthy sir. And Professor Vilas felt that, okay, he's looking decent. Okay, so now these are the conclusions that we come to. Even the facial expression, Murthy appears more confident, you say. Clean shaven. Okay, so clean shaven maybe is giving that kind of an impression that, okay, so if you have these two people and you want to approach them, as investment bankers, you would probably first judge by the appearance. Now, maybe both are equally good. Okay, now there is no right or wrong answer. It is possible that Mr. Murthy looks, clean shaven, nice and approachable, but maybe he might be rebellious and headstrong. How do we know? And it is possible that Alex may be pretty, he is quite intelligent and focused. But why is that, when we look at Alex, we don't get that kind of a thing? It is possible because of the appearance. So credibility is very important. So if you are in a profession or, where for people to accept what you're saying, okay, you have to appear credible. When you appear credible, people will take your communication seriously. So it's very important to appear credible. Okay, so accordingly you have to dress. Now, it's not necessary I'm promoting that all the time you have to wear formal clothes. But depending on the occasion, depending on what role you are playing, your dressing is going to change accordingly. Okay, so when you dress correctly according to the occasion, you appear credible and hence people tend to trust you. So if you are in a profession where you are required to meet people, people might come to you for advice, etc. When you are dressed in a conventional manner, people are more, they feel that you are credible, as opposed to when you are an unconventionally dressed person. That might work for fields which are unconventional. For example, if he's, a tattoo artist, so he cannot look like Mr. Murthy. So if Murthy sits there in a tattoo salon and, he's waiting, I don't think any customers would go to him because he would not seem credible there. He would seem credible in an investment banking kind of a scenario, but he might not seem so credible in the other situation. Whereas Alex would seem more credible or more like somebody who would be a good tattoo artist. So things like that. So you have to dress according to your role, goal, and occasion. So how much time do you think people take in forming an impression? When you meet somebody, how much time do you think, in general, how much time would you form a first impression in? Instantly, okay. The moment you see, 7 seconds. All right.
Ma'am, the moment you make an eye contact and then conversation.
The moment you make eye contact and conversation, so few seconds. So everybody agrees that we form impressions the moment we see people. So research says that people form impression in around 7 seconds. That's how quickly you judge a person. So you've seen Murthy, you've seen Alex. It hardly takes you, it's just, 5 to 7 seconds in which you've already made your judgment about the person and you've already decided whether you want to communicate or not communicate with the person. So being well dressed helps in making a better first impression. So now, imagine now as mothers, we know how much challenging it is sometimes to make children eat healthy food. Okay, and you want to introduce a nice healthy salad for your children. So which do you think the child is going to prefer? Okay, the salad which is presented on the left side or probably on the right hand side. So if you look at this,
Right hand side.
correct. Obviously, because it's so presentable, it's looking so lovely that even, person who doesn't want to eat salad, they would say, oh, wow, look at the colors. It's looking so nice. It's looking, so appetizing. So you would want to go for it. So whether it's in food or it's in dressing, it's the same thing. You would always want to go with something which looks more presentable. Now, there was a terminology which was used called appearance discrimination. So some professionals in the United States, okay, they came up with this terminology because they felt that the organization is promoting dress code, which is a formal dress code at work. And they felt that, that was not necessary. They said what is important is the work. Why should we focus on the dress code? And they felt that they were being discriminated because they were not following the dress code. Okay, so that's called appearance discrimination. So I would like to ask you, would you promote a dress code for any kind of professional situation, or you feel, because there are organizations which don't promote a dress code? What is your take on having a dress code? Do you think it's necessary, or do you think it's not necessary?
Madam, before that, can you elaborate what is appearance discrimination?
Okay, sorry. So I'll get back to appearance discrimination once again. So appearance discrimination is the term which was used by a couple of professionals in the United States. Okay, they are working for an organization. The organization insisted that they have to follow a formal dress code at work. So the dress code there in most organizations is formals. So these group of employees, they felt that, the organization should not compel somebody. It's against our, individual freedom. You cannot compel somebody to dress in a particular way. And they felt that they were being discriminated because they were not coming in a dress code. So that's how this terminology of appearance discrimination, they came up with this. And this was a subject of huge debate. Okay, so you got it. So do you think, so my question was, do you think that a dress code is necessary? So Professor Shamli and Professor Sandeep think it is necessary. Anybody who thinks that it's not necessary?
Yes, it depends upon the job actually, I feel.
So what kind of a job would you think that maybe doesn't require a dress code?
Ma'am, actually, where no public interface is there or less public interface is there, at that time dress code may not matter that much. But when it comes to building trust, our minds are trained in that way that we judge people by appearance somehow. And that's why in school, if we say come the way you want, I think it may not work. So it depends upon the profession.
Okay. So you think it depends on the profession. That's right. True. Correct. Professor Nargis?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I think the people who work for magazines as an editor, where the culture, the environment is different there, it should not be a compulsion. But as ma'am said, for example, in schools or colleges, right now, like the international schools are also preferring for the faculties to come in a much more formal way. So it depends on the thinking procedure, what group of people come up with new thoughts. The only thing is that being into that formal also, if you're comfortable with your skin, that is a perfect thing.
Okay. So here we have 2 points of view. So some people feel that it is necessary. A dress code in a professional situation is necessary. Some of you feel it's not. It depends on the kind of work you're doing. If you're facing people or you have to interact with customers or your clients, etc., then it's necessary to dress up in a proper dress code. Otherwise, it's not necessary. I would just like you all to remember the COVID times, the pandemic. Okay, remember how we used to take most our online sessions, and how many of us used to dress for the occasion, or you used to prefer keeping the video off and be in casuals? We had different kind of settings where people used to, maybe some would prefer wearing formally and presenting it, and maybe some would feel that okay, you can just be casual and be in your home clothes. Do you think it makes a difference in an individual's mindset? Forget how maybe you have to interact with people or no. Do you think when you wear casual, maybe you are in pajamas and a t-shirt and you have to deliver a formal lecture, okay? Suppose if today I have to deliver the lecture and I choose not to keep my video on and I can just be in, my pajamas and a t-shirt. Do you think it would affect my delivery in any way if I am casually dressed? Or do you think, it's important for our own self also sometimes?
Yes, it makes a difference.
Yes,
It's going to make a lot makes a difference. If you're dressed casually, it's going to make a lot of difference, because at the back of the mind, it's telling you that you're not presentable.
Correct. So definitely, I think many of you all do agree that when you wear formal clothes are more structured, if you see. And when you see casual clothes, they are more like you said, dheela kind of, and all loose. And it is giving your mind a signal for relaxing. So when you have to do something very formal, wearing something very casual, even if your video is not on, somewhere, it might affect your way of thinking. Somewhere it makes people a little dull. Do you think maybe that affected even the way students, because when batches came after the pandemic, so was there a change? What did you notice as teachers? Because they were throughout offline, they were not to be then. Most of the time they were in their casual clothes all the time. So in some way, did you all notice any change?
We are still feeling the effect of that.
That's true. It has really taken a very long time.
Yes, I agree with Professor Vilas that we are still feeling the same. Okay, because the students are not still dressing up in the formals.
Right. So they got so accustomed to wearing all those casual clothes, and somewhere, the batch which joined immediately after when this came. So it was a lot of reluctance and a lot of, even for them to open up, because they had got so comfortable in being in those clothes all the time and being in that relaxed kind of a mindset, that suddenly when that formal, to come to classroom wearing formal clothes itself was such a big challenge. So it's not only, when we're talking about wearing or, being presentable, it's not only for the other person, but sometimes it affects our own psychology. So that is why it can be important the way you dress. Now look at this person who is a medical professional. Okay. Now, can you see how different he would appear if he chose not to wear a dress code? Why should I wear the white coat and come presentably? I am equally good and talented. Let me go in a ganji and, do my surgery with tattooed hands. So it's the same guy. Do you think this would make a difference? If the patient saw the doctor coming, like the way he's coming the right-hand side, what do you think would be the patient's state of mind if he knew that the doctor is going to operate on him, who looks like this with tattooed hands and, who's wearing ganji and who's come for performing a surgery. So something like this would definitely make an impact. So sometimes wear a dress code is required. Okay, so that it makes a big difference in the way the perception of the person. The person is equally talented. His talent doesn't change, or his skills don't change when he is casually dressed. But again, the way people perceive him and the way it affects his own psychology is what is important. So first impressions, when we talk about first impressions, we know, our prime minister, maybe whether people agree with his political views or not or whatsoever, that's a different case. But everybody agrees that he has managed, or he is successful in making a style statement. And he has made the Modi kurta and, the jacket very, very popular. So with his linen and khadi kurtas in generally muted colors, and which is paired with sharply tailored jackets, his appearance has been spot on, and he has dressed according to the occasion required, and hence his dressing has created a kind of a very strong and powerful impact, especially when he's meeting, leaders of powerful countries. He also has to carry that impression, and definitely dressing plays a huge role in it. And hence we can see that added to his impression. Now, tell me, in what cases do you think first impressions would be important? Is first impression important in all cases, or is it more important, to have a very good first impression in certain situations? And if you can think of maybe what situations would first impressions play an important role? How many of you have had arranged marriages and you've had that whole, thing of seeing the girl or the boy and, for the first time, and everything at that time have mattered? Okay, interviews. Yes, of course. So when you are, going for an interview, first impression is very important. When you're going probably for deciding your future spouse and all, the first impression, very important. So there are situations where first impression is important, especially with people who you don't know. Maybe where we know people, we really don't bother much about the first impression. I think somebody is unmute. Would you like to say something, Professor Vilas?
No, by mistake.
Okay, yeah. So, especially with people who you don't know, in such case, first impressions become really important. When the opinion of other people is very important for the achievement of your goals, like for the interview. Okay, so for the interview, your goal is to land a job. And here the opinion of the other person becomes really important to you. So it is important, imperative that you make a good first impression. Or when you need an edge. Okay, there are a lot of people who are at the same level. Okay, so you need, like prime ministers. We've had so many prime ministers coming. You need an edge. You dress differently. You dress sharply. Of course, you are going to get the edge. So look at the transformation of Virat Kohli. So if you look at the picture on the left, he looks really, like raw, unpolished. He's definitely full of talent. But as you see, he's also, his job is to play. But whether you're a sportsman or you belong to any other profession, dressing sharp, looking sharp becomes very important in the way people perceive you and the confidence that you get yourself. So this becomes really important. Now, there was a study which shows how attractive looking people, okay, we are looking here in this particular study, they looked at people who look good. How are they perceived? So when you see somebody really good looking, the general perception is that you look at the person and you automatically think the person would be successful. Person looks so happy. They're so good looking. They look happy. You feel they're trustworthy. So people would tend to trust somebody with good looks. They seem to be more sociable and they seem to be more competent. We're not saying this is a fact, but I'm saying this is the perception according to a study that attractive looking people would, seem very positive in all these aspects, which means that they are more likely to get a job after an interview. It also means that they are more likely to get their job performances rated higher. So this is a kind of maybe a bias that people have or towards somebody who is attractive looking, male or female. So now an experiment was conducted where 6 different models as in people, different people were taken and they were made to wear unattractive clothes versus attractive clothes. Okay, so they were made to, when we say unattractive clothes would not mean casual clothes. It would mean ill-fitted, maybe with the wrong color combination, which doesn't suit them, which doesn't flatter their personality. And attractive clothes are clothes in which you look good. They are maybe, it has a good fit, good color combination. It suits you. So overall, you look attractive. So it was found that when people were, like a makeover, there are there's some different programs which talk about makeover that people undergo. So when people were given a makeover and they were given good clothes, it was found that clothing attractiveness can have the similar positive effect as a naturally good-looking person has. Which means you might not be physically very good-looking, but if you dress well, you can have those same kind of the way people perceive you could be in the same way that person would perceive an attractive looking person. So you can achieve clothing attractiveness with, you can achieve that kind of a positive reaction even through clothing attractiveness. So this was all about the, the dressing part. So there were other aspects which we talked about, like the grooming. What do you think, what else comes in grooming? So dressing is one part. What else would be a part of grooming? Other than your dressing, what part would contribute to your appearance? Which part of the grooming?
Your hairstyle.
Exactly. Your hairstyle, and that plays a very important role in your overall grooming. Okay, you have a poor hairstyle, or you have badly managed hair, that can totally ruin your appearance. Okay, and sometimes we see students also and children who refuse to cut hair, especially boys. They have this fancy towards overgrown hair, and they refuse to cut hair. And the moment they cut their hair and they come to class, or even you see them at home, they look totally different. I don't know how many of you have felt that, but I sometimes feel that they look really different with a good haircut. So it applies for both men and women. So your hairstyle, your clothes, your accessories. What accessories do you choose to wear with your clothes? Your shoes. People very rarely pay attention to their footwear. Okay, they only maybe focus on the dressing, and the footwear is generally neglected. So you have maybe shoes that are worn out, or sandals, or whatever footwear you wear, it's worn out, not in good condition. So that ruins the entire look. So when we are talking about grooming, it's an overall thing, right from your hair to your footwear. Everything is inclusive in grooming. So when we have an overall groomed appearance, you look neat. It's not only the dressing, all aspects of grooming are included. And also personal hygiene. It's extremely important. Okay, that is bad breath, or if you use a deodorant or something, you don't have to use very expensive perfumes, but at least considering the humid conditions in Mumbai, it's always a good idea not to smell bad. If you don't smell good, at least don't smell bad. So hygiene, all these play a very important role in creating a positive appearance. So that was about the first aspect of appearance. Now moving on to the second aspect, that is facial expression. Okay, so we have many expressions on our face. Okay, we know the different kind of emotions. Everything is reflected through our facial expression. So my question is, if you are not expressing something, does your face carry an expression even if you are not overtly expressing something? And what kind of expressions do people carry on their face? Can you think of expressions that how do people, when you look at somebody, look at their face, immediately you sometimes make a judgment about the person based on how they look. Okay, sad faces. Some people look sad all the time. Maybe they have droopy kind of faces, which they look literally sad. Eyes also, they look dull. Serious, yes, some people look so serious and stern. Sometimes you might recollect people who look very, very stern and strict looking at their facial expression, and you would really not feel like approaching them. So that makes them look really unapproachable. Some people look jolly, the smiling kind. So even if they're not smiling, their face expression looks as if they have the smile on the face. They look jolly and, very approachable. So you would like to approach people with such expressions. So even if sometimes you are not overtly expressing, like you see some of the expressions here, you might have a straight face, but still you may convey a lot of things just by the expression you carry. So of all the things you wear, your expression is most important. So it's very important to sometimes have a good look at maybe how, what kind of expression do we carry on a regular basis? Do we look dull, uninspired, unmotivated, or do we have a vibrant expression about ourselves? So it says that a smile, uses less number of muscles rather than a frown. So it is more effort to make a frowning face rather than a smiling face. So and by making a face or keeping a frown, you automatically tend to feel dull. So now if you look at the facial expression, okay, and there is this whole science behind it. And we have to understand that there are different muscles in the face. There are some dominant muscles which are responsible for expression, and there are some not so dominant muscles. Okay, so this is called EEP, that is emotional entry points. So now, if you look, one of the dominant EEP is the muscle around the eye. That is the orbicularis oculi muscle. Okay, that is responsible for a lot of emotions. Can you tell me what are the emotions that eyes could convey, that you could convey through your eyes? The orbicularis oculi muscle is used for, conveying a lot of emotion that is around your eye area. And what do you think could be the emotions that eyes could convey? Yes? Hate? Definitely. Okay, crying or sad emotion, love. So look at the variety of emotions that can come through your eyes. A defeatist attitude, sometimes you've just given up and that is seen in your eyes first. So that muscle there, it emotes it very prominently. So the eye, area is a dominant muscle which in fact shows so many different things. Suspicious, yes. Fear, excellent. Very good responses. Happiness, right. So many different emotions can be expressed just through the eye. Then you have the next, which is not a very dominant muscle, but the nasalis muscle. Okay, that is your nose. Do you think through the nose also we could convey some expressions or emotions?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you think? What kind of emotions? Through the nose. Do we do something to the nose to convey certain emotions?
Gussa.
Gussa, naak pe hai wo say. Anger. Sometimes the nostrils tend to get inflated when you're really angry. So it can definitely, show anger because you see the inflation of nostrils. Right. Any other thing? Think of any other emotion that you express through your nose, through which is evident through your nose. Anger is one. Frightfulness. Exhaustion. What happens to your nose when you're exhausted?
You just take a deep breath and then you just leave that breath. It shows that you're exhausted.
Right. So when you're exhausted again, that kind of the deep breath, etc., and that huge sigh that you leave out. So this kind of a thing also expresses things. Also maybe disgust. When you don't like something, you can just curl up your nose. You don't like it. So something which is disgusting, foul smelling. So you might even curl up your nose in disgust. So even nose, that nasalis muscle, which is not a very dominant one, but still that also conveys, a lot of emotions. Then you have the mouth, the muscle around the mouth, which is called the orbicularis oris muscle. Tell me what emotions are conveyed through the mouth. Sarcastic, very good. Smile, yes, of course, smile is like, instantly lights up your face. Sarcasm also, we'll see how. Anger, yes. Can anger be expressed through your mouth? We know how the mouth would look like when you are angry versus you're smiling. So definitely through the mouth also you can express. So just look at, just on your face, how different muscles express different kind of emotions.
Ma'am, can you elaborate on sarcastic?
I will show you an image. Okay, so that's why I did not elaborate on that. I will come to the sarcastic and we'll see how a sarcastic expression looks like. Okay, when you're frowning, maybe you will have, curl up your mouth or something like that. So we see how these different emotions are conveyed through various aspects of our face, and we'll, explore it further. Now I'll show you two pictures of two women smiling, and you are going to try and identify which smile looks more genuine and why. Okay. Okay, so look at this picture, and there is the image of
left one.
Okay, very quickly, Professor Vilas says left one. Any reason?
Obvious.
Why is it so obvious? What open mouth the face? Yes?
There are curls on her cheek. There is a smile in her eyes. You can read that.
Yes.
Along with that, yeah. So you can just make out that it's a genuine smile.
Right. So very open mouth. If you see like both the smiles, the one on the right seems like more of a polite smile, or just like she just needs to smile in certain, we sometimes have to smile in certain situations, or like a formal kind of smile. But here it's like a big wide smile when you're really happy. Okay, and as Dr. Shamli rightly observed, if you look at her eyes, it seems as if her eyes are also smiling. So that is, one thing. So we have this, thing called the Duchenne smile. So Duchenne was a person who discovered this muscle group, which is involved in a genuine kind of a smile over the other, a polite smile maybe. So, it's called a crow's feet. When you have wrinkling around the eyes here, when you smile, that's called crow's feet. So when you smile and your white smile reaches your eye and you have the crow's feet, okay, this is something which makes it look very genuine, as opposed to when you're just giving a polite smile. If you see on the right side, her eyes don't appear to smile. So when you really want to seem approachable, you have to be, you give a full smile which reaches your eyes and automatically you come across as approachable. But in certain formal situations, if you don't want to seem very approachable, then you always give just a polite smile. So now again, we see three different kinds of smiles. So now you interpret each type for me. Okay, so one on the left, that seems to be what kind of a smile? Genuine smile. Very genuine, very happy kind of smile. One in the center? Zabardasti, yes. Aise hasna hai. You will just, the no teeth are exposed. If you see here, no teeth are exposed. It's a tight-lipped smile, which is very formal and, zabardasti karna hai. Now the one on the right. Sarcastic. So you just asked me, what is a sarcastic smile? This is the one-sided smile. You say something sarcastic and you give that one-sided smile. So this is when you appear to be sarcastic. So that's how even a smile can have such varied interpretations depending on how people smile. Now,
the third one, ma'am, just yes, a second. Yes. Third one, even though he's smiling, he's hating something like that.
Right. That's why we said it's a sarcastic. Means he's not genuinely smiling. Aise mazak uda raha hai, he just said something in a very sarcastic way. So he's giving that kind of a smile. So it is not genuine. And of course, it's like putting down a person. That is a kind of smile when you use to put down somebody or, say something which it's really not going to be pleasant. So that kind of a smile is the third one. Right. So I think, can we move ahead? Now, we generally say according to the mood, we react, right? So if you're happy, you smile. If you're not feeling that happy, you frown or you're sad, etc. Can it ever happen the other way around? That if you mimic or imitate a facial expression, okay, can that affect your mood? For instance, I am not feeling happy, but if I, try to put on a smile, try to, have a smiling face, can that have an effect on the body? Can that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. We should intentionally start intentionally should smile So that will affect.
Right. So according to you, intentionally, you used a good word there, intentionally sometimes when you might not feel good. Intentionally, you can adopt certain body language which makes you feel better. Okay. And it can be the other way around also. Maybe you're feeling okay, but just try sulking. We all know that sulking face, that long face that we carry. Just droop your shoulders like this, sit in that kind of a position, making that sulky face. You will notice after some time you start feeling lousy. So this is based on an experiment which showed, it's called the facial feedback hypothesis. Okay, so here what was done is, they used this pen and they were trying to measure the muscles on the face and what kind of reaction, how it affects the mind. So when you hold the pen in a way, okay, in the first picture you will see the mouth, there is no expression, there's no smile. In the second one, there's a slight smile. Then you see the position of the pen is placed in such a way that automatically there is a wider smile. So this is not a natural smile, but they're trying to, bring up the smile. They're trying to create the expression because of the use of the pen. But it was found that when you follow certain expressions, your mind starts thinking that, okay, body is sending this kind of signal. Automatically, it starts generating the emotion that you are feeling happy. So anytime when one does not feel very happy or energetic, you can try and adopt certain things in your body language, which reflects, or makes you feel better. Now, this advice we even give to students, who are not feeling very confident, like if they're trying to communicate in front of a public or in people, giving a speech or talk, when they don't feel confident. If you curl up your body and you sit like this and you just hold yourself, you're going to feel more diffident. So you have to immediately, bring in, when we talk about the deep breath, it expands our body. Okay, it makes us feel bigger. And we, automatically you stand up, you puff your chest out and, you keep your stance in a way, automatically you will feel the energy in your body. So these kind of expressions can actually help us in having a conducive mindset. Now, it's very important that we observe facial expressions. Now, when we are communicating with people on a daily basis, why do you think it's important to observe? And especially in certain situations where there might be high stakes situations where you're negotiating, or, we have this negotiations with our partners, with our children also on a daily basis. Okay, so we're trying to get them to agree to something. We are trying to say something which maybe, it's a confrontation. That yesterday we had a session on feedback, that sometimes we might have to give feedback, which really it might be difficult. So when we are communicating, it becomes very important that you observe the facial expression, because yes, real thoughts are sensed through the facial expression. So you can predict which way is this conversation going to go. As you're talking, you can try and understand, or, how this person is going to react. And it is very important as a good communicator to vary your communication according to the reaction of the person. So when you talk, first there is this onset of emotions. In the beginning, you can notice small changes. Okay, so look at the way that boy tight-lipped and his eyes glaring, he's looking. So the parent might be saying something. First thing you notice, the tightening of the mouth and the glaring of the eyes. Look at the dog, looks pretty dangerous. So immediately you can make out that person is not very happy, or you can see a frown. So this is the onset of emotions. So sometimes if you're communicating and you see that maybe the response is not, you're not getting, or it seems to be starting off unfavorable response, that is the time to understand that you need to change your communication style. Otherwise, what happens, the onset becomes the apex. So suddenly then what has started, you might just see an eruption wherein the person might just lose the cool and things might go out of hand. So you have the chance to, stop it at that particular stage, and not allow it to go to the apex. And finally, you have the offset where, the emotions are subsiding, people are cooling down, and then you feel, okay, they also feel terrible about having reacted, etc. But you can understand, or you can, prevent that by studying the expression and accordingly when you communicate. Now, there is something called emotion leakage. What do you think is emotion leakage? If you look at the picture, is it possible that somebody, might be really laughing and in the midst of that you see a different expression? So you seem that person is showing some expression, but sometimes, you might find either in the form of micro expression that the person might reveal something different, or probably an entirely different kind of an emotion, maybe an equally strong. In the midst of somebody who is, trying to put up a brave face and trying to smile, etc. Maybe in the midst of that, suddenly the kind of the tragic kind of an emotion surfaces. Okay, so that's called the emotional leakage, wherein the real emotion comes, from the whole facade of the performed emotion. So that also, makes us realize, or we can understand, that people have been hiding certain emotions behind their expressions. Now, also, if you see culturally, facial expressions vary. Certain cultures, are very open, and you will see people smiling at each other, and it's even appropriate that probably people who are at high positions, etc., they will also, use favorable body language and they will smile, etc. But if you look at maybe South Asian countries, Japan, China, etc., there much display of facial expression is not encouraged. So even if you can see that in their leaders, they don't express much, in the facial expression. So that was about the facial expression part. Okay. Now, moving on to the next aspect, eye contact. All right. Now, when we talk about eye contact, why is eye contact important? Do you think eye contact is important, and why do you think eye contact is important in any kind of a situation?
Without that, conversation cannot take place.
Right.
The more you have an eye contact, you're more truthful to the person.
Right. Correct. So without eye contact, a conversation only is not possible. If somebody is not looking at you, you would not even feel like talking to that person. So it's really important.
You cannot connect if there is no eye contact.
Very true. You can't connect. So you can't connect with somebody who is not looking at you. Okay. So similarly, for you to establish a connection, you have to look at people, and to have a conversation, you need to look at people. Now, what happens in interpersonal situations? Is this a common scenario these days? That we give more eye contact to our gadgets rather than maybe our people around us. So when we're talking to people, we are more engaged in our gadgets, and we say, yeah, we're listening.
Yes.
But somehow, that connection doesn't happen. So though we say that we are listening, until you make eye contact, the person will not feel that you're listening. So that is why one of the most problem which happens in today's world, in this kind of scenario where people are busy with their work, etc., all the time in front of their mobile phones or gadgets, the other people around them in their family also totally feel left out because they are not even making eye contact. In a professional situation, when you don't make eye contact, okay, you are maybe in one-on-one conversations, or probably even when you're addressing in a meeting, etc., when there is a lack of eye contact. When I mean lack of eye contact, what are the different ways in which you can not make eye contact? Is it completely not looking at people, or like what kind, how can the eye contact vary?
Occasional shift of your eyes.
Okay.
Where you are showing that you are busy with something.
Right. So maybe we have something in hand, you're just looking at that, you're looking at the person, so you're shifting. So it's possible that you are not making complete eye contact, you're just making partial eye contact. Or in some cases, you might be totally avoiding eye contact. So in professional situations, again, the trust and credibility is not built if you're not looking at the person. Okay, so that can be a big problem. You appear to be diffident. If you're standing in a meeting, you're talking. Sometimes it happens that people only talk to some people. Okay, you would have noticed that whenever we have a meeting where people are addressing, it might sometimes feel that the speaker is only speaking to a couple of people or making eye contact with only some. So the rest feel left out. Very rarely you will find that people, they make eye contact with everybody. So when you make eye contact with most of the people, even in a large audience, when you sweep your glance across, look at everybody, then major part of your audience feels involved, even in a classroom. So maybe, we need to also check how we make eye contact with people so that everybody feels involved. So now when we talk about the interpretation of eye contact would vary depending on the length of the eye contact, the intensity and the direction. All this is important. So when we say, okay, look at people when you speak, but how you look, at them also makes a very, very big difference. For example, when we talk about length, on the two ends of the spectrum, one is completely avoiding the eye, and on the other end, you have continued staring, where you look so continuously at the person that the person starts feeling awkward. So we don't want both the ends, that where you're completely avoiding or you're just staring. Okay, it has to be a balanced way in which you make an eye contact so the person doesn't feel uncomfortable. Intensity. When we talk about intensity, how intense somebody can look. We have these expressions, if looks could kill, or you can talk about a soft gaze, or somebody looking sharply. All this talks about the intensity of the eye movement. So when we talk about the direction, one is a business gaze. So when you talk to people in one-on-one, so if you want a business or a very formal kind of a gaze, you have to imagine an invisible triangle between the forehead and the eyes, and you keep the eye contact there. So that looks very appropriate in extremely formal kind of situations. In a social situation, it can be an inverted triangle where the triangle is between the eye and the mouth. So this area you can, you need to maintain that eye contact there so that again people feel comfortable and it's not like very formal. So when you look here continuously, it looks very formal. So you can make the triangle, in an inverted triangle in a social situation. And of course, intimate gaze is the triangle goes much lower. So that is to be avoided unless, it's a very close family member of yours. So that's how the way you make eye contact makes a lot of difference. So what is appropriate eye contact? So it's said that when you are speaking to somebody, okay, maybe one-on-one, so you follow the 70-90% rule. That is 70% of the time you make the eye contact when you are speaking. When you're listening, that somebody else is speaking and you're listening, at that time you can make up to 90% of eye contact. And ideally around 6 to 7 seconds at a time. So if it's going longer than that, you can break eye contact. Now, what is a technique to break eye contact? When you break eye contact, it shouldn't look very sharp, then it will look very awkward. You're looking away, you're looking at the person, looking away, looking at the person. So what do you do when you break eye contact? You have to do it very gently so that it doesn't seem very, rash and inappropriate. So the person's face, you just look to the side of the face, either side. That is one way you break eye contact, then bring it back to the person's face. So you don't look down or up or somewhere, into space, but just look at one, section of the side of the face. So this will be an appropriate way to, break eye contact in a gentle manner. So this is important to keep in mind regarding eye contact. All right. Now moving to the next aspect, which is posture. What do you think is posture? What does posture refer to? According to you, what do you think is posture?
Energy.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Now, posture actually refers to the way you stand, you sit, or the way you walk. All this comes under posture. And posture is very important. It communicates a lot of things. Tell me, what does good posture communicate?
A good posture, confidence, and obviously, positivity that way.
Right. Good posture definitely communicates confidence. When a person is standing properly, there are different the ways in which you carry yourself. So when you carry yourself with the appropriate posture, you appear extremely confident, and you can obviously communicate better when you appear confident. So if you look at the posture, now many of us, we might see people who do not have a good posture. So in a bad posture, maybe you might have rounded shoulders, your literally you can see a hunch. So sometimes you need to correct. Sometimes you see students with bad posture when they stand, and we don't realize. And especially even for us, with the whole pandemic thing where we had to sit for a long time, and we were rarely standing, and we were all in all kinds of postures. So that definitely had an effect on the way we carried ourselves. Many people really forgot how to stand or sit properly. Okay, so either if your chest is out too much, like a military kind of a pose, that also is not an appropriate kind of a posture. When you sit, there are so many physical ailments that are caused because of bad posture. Okay, if you see, sometimes even if your posture is not good, when you walk, you will not be able to walk evenly. You might find some people leaning too much on one side when they walk, or they're lifting their feet, dragging their feet, etc. Because of bad posture, it changes the alignment of your body, and it creates a lot of problems. So as far as possible, one must try to adopt a good posture. Even when you're sitting, try to adopt a good posture so that it doesn't affect your back and doesn't cause a kind of problems to you. So when we talk about posture, definitely feet are involved. Okay, so look at these 4 types of feet, or four directions in which the feet are placed. So when I'm talking about interested feet, why would I call it interested feet? Look at the feet position and tell me that when you look at the feet and somebody is standing, what would make you think that it's or why would you say that feet is called interested feet? Anyone? Okay, so let me tell you.
1 foot forward.
Okay, right, that's right. 1 foot forward. And which is a direction in which both feet are pointed to, which direction? It's towards who? It's towards the person who is standing. So if you're standing and both the feet, yes, towards the speaker or the person who is standing in front. If the feet are pointed towards you, okay, both feet, it shows that this person who is talking to is definitely interested and, interested in the conversation. Now look at the disinterested feet. So if the feet are pointing away from you when the person is standing, subconsciously the person wants to run in the other direction. Okay, that's why the feet are pointed. So when people are having conversations, most of the time we are engaged in our mobile phones and we keep, surfing or looking things. So sometimes we must also look at the dynamics of communication when people communicate. So when the feet are away, they seem more disinterested. Happy feet, when the feet are dangling in the air and they're swinging, like children, you can imagine children sitting somewhere dangling their feet. Those are happy feet. They're dangling it and they're happy about it. Anxious, it's an awkward position where the feet facing each other, you're making constant movements. So this shows that you are anxious. So different parts of the posture indicate different things. Now look at the posture of the person who is seated. What does this posture convey to you about the person? What do you think, how interested the person is?
Disinterested and not ready to, not neutrally listening to what the opposite person is saying.
Why do you think he appears disinterested? What part of his posture shows that he is disinterested?
His hand, definitely it's a defensive position is not maintaining an eye contact. That is true.
Correct.
And also the way his legs are, he's resting and like too much of even his back. Actually.
Very true. Good observation. So sometimes in class we tell students sit up straight. Students very often, like in class, you see this kind of a slumped posture where they're just leaning back. So this gives a very casual kind of appearance when a person, when you're speaking to someone, if the person is leaning towards you, you feel as if the person is more connected. When the person is leaning away from you, okay, and in a kind of slumped posture, so you automatically feel that kind of a disconnect. So the way you sit, whether it's leaning forward or leaning back, or here he's not making eye contact. So here a person doesn't seem to be interested. So your posture shows your involvement, how involved you are, how attentive you are. And again, your level of fondness. If your child comes to you and is speaking something, obviously you're going to lean towards the child. You're going to, so that posture itself encourages the child to speak more. It shows that fondness. But if you're distant, you're looking away, you're not making eye contact, body is away from the person, the children might not even feel like communicating. So posture is very important when somebody is communicating to you. Okay, and also it shows your level of confidence. Now we look at posture positions when we talked about, how men and women use different non-verbal cues. So when men wish to assert or show the dominance or authority, what is the standing position that they would adopt? So if you look at this picture, now on the left hand side, you would see this man who is crossing his legs. He has his hands behind his back. And in the right hand side, you will see how they're standing with legs apart, arms also you can see, flared up like that. So it is said that when, people want to assert their authority or dominance, you would see men generally even standing like that with feet apart. That shows, and they make themselves wider than they actually are by flaring out the hands. So this is called a typical kind of a dominant position, which shows authority. And maybe somebody who's standing like the way on the left hand side would appear extremely diffident. But on the other hand, you would not, if a woman stands like this with her legs apart and standing like this, definitely this would, this would not be the way, maybe a woman would try to show a kind of authority. She would have a different kind of body language. But with men, they would always take up more space than required when they have to, show that kind of dominance. If you look at seated positions, the middle position there, he's crossed his legs. That is, a kind of generally an appropriate seated position that a male would, take. To the left-hand side, you see like a figure 4. That's called, the way he's sitting is a figure 4. That is a slightly more dominating kind of a position. So if you are, probably attending a meeting or with people or higher ups, nobody would appreciate if you, sat like that. With that figure 4 kind of position, okay, crossing legs would be fine, but that might be, it would maybe come across as a dominating position. And if you see the figure on the right, he's clamping the legs, with his hands. So this is a extremely superior and dominating kind of a thing, wherein you are making a figure 4 and plus you're clamping your legs, with that. So this again seems like a very aggressive kind of a position, and which is to be avoided. On the other hand, if you look at some of the, posture that women take, now this is the royal family who is known to, follow all etiquettes when it comes to the way they sit, the way they talk, etc. So the queen, the late queen, this was generally the pose that she would always be seen in if, any kind of social occasion with her. If you see her legs, they are like together. She would not sit in any other position, but this would be the most appropriate position. So women generally, if you see whether they're sitting in a bus or they're sitting, you will never see them taking up a lot of space, generally like how men would, by putting their legs apart, and they would take more space when they sit or stand. Women would again make themselves smaller, or they would make themselves compact in terms of joining their legs and sitting like that. Now, the middle, Meghan Markle. Now, the kind of position that she has, the way she is sitting, this is considered to be a very feminine kind of position with a slanted leg. Okay, so and very appropriate and feminine. So if you want, you wish to display that kind of a side of you, then that's the general position that you take. Now, Kate Middleton, if you see most of her pictures, you will see her pictures, standing pictures, with a clutch held in front like that. Most of her positions where she's standing. So when you hold some kind of object in front of you, so that is like creating a little bit of space between you and somebody else. So whenever anybody holds something in between, it's always like you are trying to create a kind of a space between the two. So it's again being formal, they would always like to keep that kind of distance in that kind of positions. So this is one of the position that she adopts, and some women also do so. So these were like some postural differences between men and women, how they carry themselves and what messages does it carry. So now I'll show you a picture, and you have to tell me that suppose you enter a room, okay, and you see, and you see familiar people who are working with you. These are colleagues, and you will see two pairs of colleagues talking to each other, and you wish to join in the conversation. Okay, so tell me which pair would you choose to join in the conversation, looking at their posture. And there's a reason why, maybe because you want to join anyone, you're deciding.
Left one.
Left one. Why would you do so? Okay, you feel instinctively, you feel that you would join the left.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Anybody else? Or you feel you can't really understand which. So now when we go in, because there are sometimes situations like this, it may be in a workplace, you see two people talking, you in your mind you're thinking, should I enter the conversation or should I not? Now their body language will give a clue as whether you should enter, whether you entering their conversation will be seen as an interruption, and whether they might not like it, or they might be open to having you in the conversation. Now, the clue to that is revealed in the way they stand. So when people are standing facing each other, both their foot, now if you look at the picture on the left, both their feet are pointing directly at each other. So earlier we saw interested feet. When the feet are directly pointed, it shows they are very much interested, and they are having a very deep conversation, because they are just, their feet are looking at each other. Their bodies are also, they are involved in a deep conversation. Whereas if you see on the right side, there is a gap, and the feet are pointed in different directions, which means the people on the right would be more okay if you joined. Maybe they would be flexible and they would accommodate you in the conversation. Whereas maybe if you joined the couple on the left, they are engaged in a deep conversation. Probably they would not very much appreciate you being, or they would just look at you as if it was an intrusion, and they would really not want you to be a part of it. Okay, so that is how you have to try and interpret when you look at people, except because every time we make decisions about it, and sometimes in our enthusiasm and exuberance, we might not realize what is appropriate and what is inappropriate, and we might end up actually making a lot of inappropriate kind of moves, which might really, not make that bridge of communication, but might, make people not really very receptive towards us. Even if you look at the audience, people sit in different postures. A posture like this, where somebody has, the fingers on the cheek and is leaning towards you, this person shows that he's very intently listening to what you have to say. Okay? When somebody is shaking their legs, that shows a lot of impatience and boredom. And somebody sits like this, we talked about the figure 4, and plus the hands, okay, resting behind the head. This is a complete picture of superiority. Okay, so that was about the posture and how you have to interpret, the posture of the audience, and you also have to understand which is, appropriate. How do you modify? How do you use? How do you study the communication to participate in a discussion with them. Now, moving on to gestures, okay, which is one of the final aspects of, there are a lot of different aspects of non-verbal communication. I won't be, discussing all of them because it's like really, really huge. So I've just picked up, around 4 or 5 aspects which I can, share and I can discuss with you. So this is one of it. Okay, there's among the last aspects of body language. So gestures. So gesture, any kind of movement that we make with our hands, okay, or even the head movements, all this come under gestures. Now we have gestures which are culturally very specific. We have certain gestures which are specific to certain cultures. Okay, like for example, even in greeting, when people greet each other, in different cultures, they follow different gestures. This we definitely know. Okay, people bowing, South Asian cultures, they bow and they, greet each other. So we have our namaste gesture, which is again a sign of greeting in our culture. Now, this is a little funny that in certain Arab cultures, people rub their nose against each other and they greet each other. So this is a very unique way of greeting, and maybe if you're not familiar with it, you might really not understand what is going on here. Okay, now I will show you a picture, okay, and you have to identify something in this picture. Okay, now in this picture, this is actually a crew of a ship called USS Pueblo, and this was in 1968. This picture was clicked. Now this particular crew, they were attached to the Navy intelligence, and it was a spy ship. Now this ship was attacked and captured by North Korean forces. Okay. Now North Korean forces, when they attacked and captured this crew, and then they try to take pictures and they send the propaganda that we are treating them very well, they're very happy, etc. They have no problem and all. So this is what they were trying to communicate. So one of the crew members, okay, you can observe and tell me which one, is making a particular gesture, okay, which is trying to communicate something. So could you look at this?
Right top.
Right upper line.
Upper.
Right upper. What gesture is that? What gesture did you see that is different?
Yeah, different than the others.
So you're talking about the one who is holding the hands behind?
Yeah.
Okay. So notice a little more carefully. Notice a little more carefully. If you can see any other gesture which is seeming pretty different. Anything which appears to be a little different?
Pointing the finger on the hand.
Point that.
Which one?
The one in the front, the second, second from right. Look at his hand.
Second from right. It's
Correct.
totally different.
Okay, good observation. So if you see, he's made a different kind of a gesture using his finger, which nobody else has made that gesture. So that's a very different kind of a gesture. So through which he's trying to communicate that they are not enjoying the captivity as it's being portrayed. So through the gesture, so they have their own unique ways of communication. So it was through this that they came to know the real thing. They decoded it and they realized that the propaganda was false and these people were actually suffering and not enjoying their captivity. Sorry, you have something. Who's that? Okay.
First, can you please mute your camera?
Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now I would like to ask you all to demonstrate certain gestures, okay, to me. So in that case, if some of you could maybe turn on your videos and maybe demonstrate simple gestures, how it can be shown. So, okay, great. So immediately, I'm so happy Professor Vilas very quickly switched on the camera. Okay. So anybody else? Simple gestures, and we'll see how these gestures, how would you perform these gestures. Anybody else would like to join in? Okay. Okay, wonderful. Okay, Professor Joseph, yes. And anyone else? Very quickly. Okay. So anyone else would like to join in between? You can definitely do so. You can switch on your camera and do these gestures, okay? So if suppose I have to say yes, how will I do it with a gesture? Show me. If you have to, okay, great. So a thumbs up. Professor Vidyulata gave me a thumbs up sign. Yes. What about Professor Vilas? Would you do it yes in the same way? Is there any other way in which you would say yes? Okay, Dr. Shamli says a nod. Yes, we would use that also for a yes. Okay, tell me, how would you say show a no? No?
No, ma'am.
No.
Not.
Or did I go to... Okay, so how would you say a no? No, fine. Thumbs down. Okay. Nobody would show it with the head? Okay. Then what about okay? How will you say okay? Okay. Anyway, how would you like to convey okay? Anyway, any gesture you would use to convey okay? This is fingers crossed.
Okay, can also be done with the thumbs up.
Okay.
Okay, can also be done with the thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Okay. This is also a okay gesture. Any other gesture?
Ma'am, like just hats off, okay.
This you're saying. Okay. Oh, this is a very unique Devanand style. Okay. Thumbs up. Fine. Great. Okay. Then if you want to say, oh, you're looking nice with a gesture, how will you do that? Oh, great, great. So looking nice, everybody had a nice gesture for that. Then if you want to say stop. Stop. Oh, you're doing a shush sign. Stop. Any other way of doing stop other than this? Stop. बस करो. लेक्चर बस करो, अभी भूख लग रहा है, हमको खाना खाना है.
Okay. Also zip it.
Zip it. Bus. Don't talk anymore. Children now use all this kind of gestures. Then how would you say crazy? Crazy. Okay. And you want to call someone with a gesture? Somebody does this or this? All right, fantastic. So thumbs up to all of you who very enthusiastically showed me all the gestures. Fantastic. So thank you. So we'll come back and we'll look at how, like you all showed me a lot of gestures. We'll look at how that, some gestures could mean really different things. Okay, in different kind of, in different cultures. So you all can see the slide, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now we looked at the gestures, we looked at thumbs up. We looked at this, oh, it's nice. Which gesture would this represent?
Cool. Yo.
Yo. Okay, yo. Now this is what Professor Vilas did. Come here. What is this gesture?
I think quiet.
Quiet.
Annoying.
We do this, na? We do this.
Acha.
Annoyed.
Ye kya hai? What do you think? Huh? Sorry?
I'm pissed off, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Annoyed.
Annoyed. This does it seem annoyed? Okay. So let's just look at how different things can, these gestures can mean different things. Now this thumbs up gesture, which we think is so great, all the best, etc. In many cultures, this is a very offensive kind of a gesture. Okay. So if you do this gesture, people are definitely going to feel offended, and it's like a bad sign. So if you go to different countries, you are in a different country, assume you're traveling. As far as possible, before you do gestures to communicate, you have to always understand whether this gesture is appropriate or not. So this gesture is not appropriate in certain countries. Okay,
Ma'am, I think Japan. In Japan, it is not appropriate, I think.
In Japan, I'm not so sure, but definitely in the Middle East, it is not an appropriate
Yes, ma'am.
gesture. This will not be looked on kindly in the Middle East if you do this gesture.
Yes,
now, this gesture, which seems, the one who's saying very good, like the must type of gesture. Now, in certain countries like maybe UK and Australia, especially when, one is the peace sign, which we do like this, okay, which the palms facing towards the other person. But when the palm is facing towards us and you do this gesture in Australia and UK, okay, it's a very obscene kind of a gesture. So, which is not, to be done. And this kind of way you're calling someone with, you use one finger in countries like Philippines. This gesture is used only to call dogs. So if you use this, single single finger gesture in countries like Philippines, you can imagine what kind of treatment would you get, So that's definitely a no-no. Now this one, which you see the finger on the nose, now this seems like a very unique gesture, not very commonly used. So it's like if somebody asks, okay, whose purse is this, and you point your this towards them, you say it's me. This is how we would use, to show it's me. You would point towards your chest, and you would say this is mine, or this is this. In Japan, this is done by placing a finger on your nose. So if you want to identify yourself, or you say something, this belongs to me, this is the way that this would be probably interpreted in Japan. So we see how gestures are totally culture specific, and sometimes if you don't understand the meaning and you use it randomly across different countries, sometimes it might mean very different things and people might actually get offended by what you're saying. Now, even the head gestures, like when we say nodding yes, okay, we generally go in this kind of movement, this is supposed to be yes and this is supposed to be no. But we Indians have a very unique way of doing yes. What is that unique way? So when we say yes, this is the general practice. And in India, we have a head gesture which is not followed anywhere in the world. How do you think that head gesture is for saying yes? What do we do? Anybody? How do we move the head?
Ma'am, like round and round?
Yeah, we'll do this from side to side. And this is not followed by anybody. But we know when we do this, samajh mein aaya, you do this, it means yes. But in many cultures, they would really not know what is this. They understand this as yes and this as no. But ye sidewise, ye kya chal raha hai, they don't understand. So that is the thing. And in certain cultures, again, it's the other way around. This means no. Okay, so for Bulgarians and Greeks, so nodding up and down is a negative. So again, you don't know this, it might cause a lot of confusion when you use body language across different cultures. Now, even gestures for approachability, when you have more open gestures, wherein your palms are visible, when you communicate, as opposed to hands in the pocket or, hands folded arms, when you have open arms, that shows more approachability as opposed to the other two. There are certain gestures which make people appear confident. This is called a steepling gesture. When you hold like this, when you talk like this with a steepling gesture, you automatically appear more confident. Okay. And as I said, openness gestures, when you reveal your palms more, that is when you appear to be more open. So with this, we come to an end of, two different aspects of body language, which make an impact. As I said, there are many more aspects, but I thought this much would be, appropriate. Now, there's a small part on vocalics, because we talk about how voice also plays a very important role in communication. So this is the last part of the presentation where we, talk about vocalics and how vocalics play an important role in communication. So when we say vocalics, we refer to how we use the voice. And sometimes when we listen to others, we also try to study, very closely. We try to look at the tone and try to understand what is the meaning. So what they are saying is not important. How they are saying is what we try to interpret. So when we talk about vocalics, we talk about accent, we talk about pitch, the inflection, that is the rise and fall, the way they speak, the rate, how fast or slow, how they are stressing, emphasizing things, their tone, volume, the way you pronounce, your vocal quality, all this comes under vocalics. So when you talk about accent, okay, now different people, like if you see English also, across the world, there are different accents in which people speak English. Okay, the American accent is quite distinct from the British accent or the Australian accent. So even if it's English or the Indian English that we speak, so we have a particular kind of accent. Also, is it possible that sometimes when you hear people speaking English in India, oh, we say, "Arey, हाँ, ये तो Maharashtrian है, ये Gujarati है, ये तो पक्का South Indian है." Can we, understand from the accent or the way they speak English, which region people come from? I think.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. We can understand.
That is pretty obvious, So the way your accent is reveals, what your which region you come from. So that is why accent plays an important role. And people, when you have a neutral accent, that means people are not able to understand, maybe, hearing your accent, which region you come from, that means you have a neutral accent. So when you have a very heavy regional influence, it becomes very difficult for the people who are listening to understand you. Okay, so sometimes even like as teachers, if we have very heavy accents, it becomes difficult. So then it is important to understand how you can, have a more neutral accent so that it doesn't come across, in a very strong manner. Now, another thing is volume. Do you think we should speak loudly or softly? What works according to you? A loud volume or a soft volume? Which is the best kind of volume to adopt? Yes, what would you say? Speaking loudly or speaking softly?
Softly, ma'am. I guess that will work much better.
Okay. Anyone differs in opinion?
Softly but clearly.
Softly and clearly. Okay. Professor Vidyalata asked, what about in the classroom? So in the classroom, if you speak softly, would you be effective? Or, so how do you decide? Okay, let me ask you, is it that your, whatever volume you speak in, is it that you speak in the same volume in all situations?
No, not at all.
Not at all. So definitely we have a lot of variation when it comes to volume, depending on the situation, right? So there are certain situations where you think that having a loud volume would be effective. Certain situations where maybe a softer volume is preferred. Okay, so what kind of situations you need to have a louder volume than usual? So we have our all usual kind of voices. And in what situations do you think a louder volume would be more appropriate?
Like, ma'am, talking to colleagues, you can speak softly. But when you are in an auditorium and to maintain a decorum, you need a loud voice.
Correct. So to maintain decorum or to, see that you are engaging the audience, when you are loud, automatically you capture the attention. So in a big audience, if you speak extremely softly, you might come across as not a very confident person or a very soft kind of a person. So that can, cause a lot of problems in audience control. So definitely when the audience is larger, the volume should be higher. But now as teachers, what happens? I don't know how many of you have, sometimes been told at home that stop shouting. You're not in the classroom. You're speaking,
Correct.
So it does happen because we are so accustomed to using or speaking in a high volume all the time that we don't realize that sometimes we are at home or we are having a conversation between two people, and here that much of high volume is really not required. In fact, the person might get a headache after some time. So we should vary our volume according to the situation. Okay. So when you speak softly, you'll see people lean forward towards you. They listen. They want to listen closely. You speak loudly, and automatically you will see people moving away because they can't bear that kind of a volume. Speaking slowly and speaking really extremely fast. Does it make a difference? When do you choose to speak slowly, and when do you choose to speak really fast?
You go slow when you want to, make other people understand and want to make an impact about something. Like when you go slow and at the same time you also stress upon those most important words. You might go fast when you are repeating certain ideas. You've already said something and you're repeating. Maybe then you might go a little faster.
Correct. So when you want to emphasize on something, you need to go slow. Okay, so that is when people will register what you're saying. When you speak extremely in a fast pace, that conveys enthusiasm. So for situations which require enthusiasm, okay, so how are you people feeling today? Yes, aren't you all excited for the session that's going to happen? So when I speak like this, I'm trying to whip up the energy in the room. So at certain situations, you are required to speak fast to bring that kind of energy in. But in all situations, when you speak fast, it might happen that people, they find you to be overbearing, that, too much of speed, and it might not be appealing. So you have to again understand where to speak fast and where to go slow. Okay, pitch. Now, women are said to have high-pitched voices as compared to men. So it seems like they're shrieking. That shrieking kind of voice generally is more associated with women when they speak, because you generally get to a very high pitch, you talk like that. And men can convey a lot of authority by going low pitch, in a very cool and low kind of a pitch. When you convey something, it can seem quite, it can come across in a very strong manner. So the way vary the pitch of the voice. If you speak in a high pitched voice all the time, again, it conveys less authority. Okay, to convey a more authoritative voice, you have to speak in a low-pitched voice wherever required. High-pitched, again, in situations where, it requires that kind of high pitch, that should be done. But mostly, high pitch all the time should definitely be avoided. Now, word stress. Now, I need, again, volunteers for this. Very quickly, we'll see how stress on certain words can totally change the meaning of that particular sentence. Okay, so whichever word is highlighted, I want you to stress on that word when you speak out the sentence. So could I have a volunteer to read out this sentence stressing on the first word?
May I do it? Yes.
Yes, sure.
I did not say you were stupid.
Okay, you have stressed on the second word.
Sorry. I did not say you were stupid.
Okay. So when you say, I didn't say you were stupid, what does this mean? मैंने नहीं बोला, somebody else.
मैंने नहीं बोला, शायद किसी और ने.
I didn't say it. So when you say I didn't say it, the meaning is different. Okay, that I didn't say you were stupid. Okay, let's go to the next one. Somebody read this.
I didn't say you were stupid.
I did say you were stupid. You are emphasizing when nahi, I did not say that. Okay, so you are denying the fact that I did not say it. Next one.
I didn't say you are stupid. You were stupid.
I didn't say you were stupid. What does this mean? मैंने बोला नहीं
शायद imply
किया. Correct. So I didn't say it in so many words, but I have implied that you are stupid. Okay. Then next. Next one. Somebody would like to read?
I didn't say you were stupid.
हाँ, so I didn't say you were stupid. मतलब मैं किसी और के बारे में
someone else is. Yeah.
Someone else. I was talking about somebody else, not you. I didn't say you were stupid. Okay. Then next one.
I didn't say you were stupid.
So what does it mean? I didn't say you were stupid. You
still are.
Maybe you still are stupid. So I didn't say you were. वो अभी भी है. That was not a thing of the past. अभी भी you are stupid. So again, that changes the meaning. What exactly the person is trying to say. The next one. Last
I
one.
didn't say you were stupid.
I didn't say you were stupid. Maybe you're an idiot, but I didn't say you were stupid at least. So you see how when we stress, on different aspects, the complete meaning of, the words change. So that's how pauses and stress play an important role. Now I want somebody to read this sentence the normal way. Someone just read this.
A woman without her man is nothing.
You have used pause. So you're not supposed to use a pause.
Maybe someone else can try.
A woman without her man is nothing.
Okay. A woman without her man is nothing. So we all know the meaning of this. A woman without her man is nothing. So this means something. Now, when I put a colon after woman and a comma after her, how would you read this? That's the way how Dr. Shamli read it. A woman without her man is nothing. Does it change the meaning?
Definitely.
So you see how when you use the pause and stress in certain places, the meaning can completely change. So a woman without her man is nothing means something different. And look at the second one, when you use the pause, a woman without her man is nothing. Okay, so it can make a big difference in how you speak and how your words are interpreted. So that's why it's very important to use your, vocalics and pauses and stress correctly. So it's said that, 10% of the conflicts are due to difference of opinion and 90% is due to the wrong tone of voice. So if you use the tone in a wrong manner, the message is completely different. So for simple sentence like, you look lovely, when it's a real genuine admiration, it just comes off naturally. Oh, you look lovely, the way you say. Sarcasm, you remember that one-sided smile? When the person gives that one-sided smile, oh, you look lovely, So it's as if, that it's not to be taken seriously. Skepticism is when you're doubtful. You look lovely. Acha, okay, is it? So it conveys that. So your tone is very important in, figuring out exactly what you are trying to convey. Okay, articulation is how you pronounce, and how you clearly pronounce each word. So the best way to practice it is to practice tongue twisters. Would someone like to read out this tongue twister? Anyone would like to read out?
Yeah.
Yes.
Peter pick a peck of pickled peppers, a peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. If Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked?
Oh, wow. Very good.
Thank you.
That was quite a PPP sound. So, this is a very good exercise. If you want to test how clearly you speak, this is like exercising your tongue, So you should try practicing different tongue twisters when you are speaking. Okay, now this last part of vocalics is talking about fillers. That sometimes unknowingly we use a lot of fillers when we speak. So either it's in the form of a sound like etc. You keep using fillers like that, or then you use filler phrases. You see, I mean, stuff, this stuff, kind of, etc. Or filler words. So when you use it very repeatedly, people focus more on the fillers rather than your content. So this must be avoided, and you must avoid Of course, definitely it's not possible to avoid it completely, but try to limit it so that it doesn't hinder your communication. So, finally, if we move ahead to the conclusion. So basically, what we talked about today was about verbal communication, how it's important, but how non-verbal communication, which includes body language and vocalics, how they convey a major part of the meaning. So whether it's body language in the form of your appearance, posture, eye contact, facial expression, hand gestures, each of this convey a lot, and give a lot of meaning. And even the vocalics, the way you speak, your tone of voice, all this, as we saw how in various ways how it contributes to your overall communication. So that's why it becomes so important. So I would like you to leave you with these thoughts that one must keep in mind that body language is a form of non-verbal communication. It's the postures, the gesture, the moves that we make that send the signals that speak louder than words. And that language is a more recent thing, phenomenon. But before that, much before that, your body language, everything else, that existed. And that is what is going to appeal and reach the audience even before your words have reached. So the final thought is a quote by Peter Drucker, who says, "The most important thing in communication is hearing what is not said." So with those words, I would like to thank you for being very patient for a good 2 hours and for listening and participating so actively and enthusiastically. So thank you so much for that. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to take them. Thank you, Professor Vidyulata.
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. May I?
Yes, sure. Yes, sure. No, Professor.
Okay. Once again, good evening, ma'am. This is Nargis. Okay. Ma'am, as you said, the voice, vocalics also matters when we speak. So at times what happens, you are using the bass of your voice, right? So sometimes that bass can be of anger. Sometimes that can be of giving more and more stress, like compulsion kind of. At the same time, sometimes the bass is used when you are very down, almost like break. You are almost break. So in such a situation, how the person will understand, like if the person is on the other side, how the person will understand that what kind of a person is there in the situation and how to handle.
See, when you're talking about anger, so definitely when you're, speaking, the pitch is not the only thing that varies. When you speak in a high pitch, of course, is different. But when you speak in a low pitch, it's not only the pitch, it's also the tone which comes into play. When we talk about vocalics, there are so many different things. There's a stress on words. There is the kind of tone that you use. So it's not only, what you're saying that is going to come across, but all these other aspects which is going to help you to identify, okay, is this person, speaking in a low voice, which means he's really dull, he doesn't want to contribute. Is he angry? Because when you're angry, you're going to stress on certain words when you speak. You might speak in a low pitch voice, but you're going to definitely stress on certain words, and it will be more like a tight clenched kind of expression that you have. So nobody is going to interpret it only with the voice. Your body language, we saw, it's something which is a continuous process. Okay, so it is going to be a combination of all of this. Your body language, your voice, everything together is going to contribute. So you're not only looking at the one aspect of the voice, but different aspects of the voice. Plus you're looking at the posture, the facial expression, everything. So all that in combination will help you to interpret what this person is trying to convey. Does that answer your question? Are you there, Professor Nargis? Okay, so meanwhile, till she responds, if anybody else has any other questions?
Yes, I think you have answered her question.
Okay.
Any more questions, please? As there are no more questions, may I request Jayan to please present a vote of thanks?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Now, I would like to present a vote of thanks. I would like to thank the speaker first, Professor Shirley Matthew, for educating us about such an important but mostly overlooked topic, non-verbal communication. Professor helps us comprehend the way non-verbal cues play a significant role in our lives. By the way we communicate, by improving our ability to relate, engage, and establish meaningful interactions. Ma'am explained through multiple pictures, drawing, activities, and mind-stimulating quizzes the concept of verbal and non-verbal communication. The importance of dressing, accessories, eye contact, cross posture, and our culture has surely changed how we look at communication. We can communicate without even knowing it. And after today's session, I am sure we will all become better communicators. We have had an extremely wonderful time with you, ma'am, and we are grateful to you for giving us your precious time. I would also like to thank all the participants for making the session very lively and interactive with your presence. I would like to express my gratitude to our principal, Dr. Mohan Murali sir, FDP coordinator, Dr. Shamli Solanki ma'am, FDP co-coordinator, Dr. Kiran Ghole sir, and Professor Ankita sir. With this, we would conclude today's session of our FDP program. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Thank you everybody for your feedback. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shirley. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.